Hello and welcome to the Spooky Screen. My name is Steven and I'm a host of this podcast. Along with me are my co-hosts David, Johnny, Noah, and Nick. Today we'll be discussing the hit HBO show The Last of Us. This week we're covering episode 9, the season finale, titled Look for the Light. Creepy, Johnny. If this is the first review you're tuning into, go back to our episode 1 review and start from there. And for those who are tuning in for this episode, you know the drill. Spoiler alerts. We'll be breaking down episode 9 in detail starting right now. So let's get into it.
And before you do,
Boys,
like and subscribe.
Right.
Smash that like button. Ring the bell.
Hey, that was great. That should be a clip.
What do we think about the season finale? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? All right. General consensus is that everyone liked it. With Noah and myself doing a 180.
Yeah.
Turns out that we can be won over from a dislike in the previous episode. So, David, line leader, can you kick us off here? What are your thoughts on episode 9 since you liked it?
Yeah, I really liked episode 9. I do feel like I need to get sold on the conclusion a little bit, and I hope you guys can sell me on it. But I would say what I liked most about it was just the acting. It really felt like all of the actors were like, we're concluding a story. We need to make every scene as like kind of poignant as we can. And I think what really pulled me in was that first part of the episode with the birth of Ellie. That's just that whole scene. I was like, what is this last episode going to be? I was in it.
Appreciate your thoughts there. Nick, we're going to go to you.
I thought this episode was fantastic. I loved it. I was a little scared initially in the beginning that the runtime was only going to be 43 minutes, but it covered everything it needed to. It hit all the beats that it needed to. It didn't give us any extra fluff. The added drama of Ellie being born was actually a very well done touch. But in terms of faithfulness for the game, 100% fantastic. And the gritty, raw gut punch that was the finale of the game was translated 100% incredibly well for TV.
So for you, faithful adaptation, and that's why you're rewarding it with a thumbs up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It was very well done. Very, very well adapted, and just as gritty as it was in the game. Felt like I was playing the game all over again.
100%. Got it. All right, Johnny. Episode 9 thoughts.
9 was good. It did not conclude the way I thought it would. There was less action, more drama. Action specifically about surviving infected. But I think the acting was superb. I think the anti-hero arc conclusion was a twist that we didn't see coming, or I didn't see coming. And I think it ends with a lot of good questions without being too much of a cliffhanger. Without being kind of a gotcha cliffhanger. It was a little bit more of a meditative cliffhanger.
With a little bit of an emotional gotcha, yeah, I would say. Right?
Definitely emotional gotcha, but not the kind that, oh, well, what's going to happen? Like next? Like this, like investing all this time for a year, have to wait a year to find a conclusion. That is so frustrating. So they didn't do that. And so yeah, I appreciate that.
Got it. Thanks, Johnny. Noah, we're looking to you.
Yes. So
you did a 180.
Yes, 180. So 10 years ago when I played the video game and I got to the ending, I considered it a masterpiece and it blew me away. Watching it on the TV, and again, I'm blown away and I consider it a masterpiece. Last of Us asks a lot of hard questions of the audience, and it's questions that you don't get asked a lot about love, about heroes, about villains. This is where it really like punches the audience straight in the gut and it's like, this is what I'm about. And it doesn't really give answers, but it makes you think. And that to me is powerful.
I have to agree with you there. And I'm going to give my thoughts here on episode 9. I was just kind of consistently blown away this season by the ability of this team to decide when to stick to its guns, which is AKA the video game, versus zagging from the zigs in terms of the storytelling. For example, episode 3 with Bill and Frank. And I think ultimately this was an incredibly well-written, strong, well-crafted adaptation of the video game. Episode 9 albeit shorter than usual, was really a strong cap off to this entire season. And I think the biggest complaint that I have about The Last of Us season 1 is that I just wanted more. And I think that's the nicest compliment. I mean, nicest backhanded compliment that you could give any TV show. I think, yeah, there's really nothing else left to say. I think that they just knew exactly what they were making. And even though the bar wasn't quite high in regards to video game adaptations,
Low.
I really think this was
Very low.
yes, low.
Right, we had the Mario
This-
movie.
Halo was good.
For what it's worth, hey,
Cut that part out,
Sure.
Steven. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
no, we're definitely keeping, that in.
We lose
We had
all
to
our
play-
subscribers
we had
tomorrow.
We had-
Master Chief
We had
was
a
way
terrible
more
bar.
handsome than you thought he was.
I think in general, video game adaptations, TV,
Yeah.
film, whatever. I think this stands at the top. So hats off to Craig, Mason, Neil Druckmann, the team. I'm really happy that I've seen the show. I was happy to review it with you guys. And that is the rest of the episode. So we can good night. No, I'm just kidding. We'll break down episode 9. So that's what we'll get into right now. But does anyone else have anything to say about our thoughts or before we move on, or we're good?
I think we're good.
I will say that I'm glad that the people that didn't get to play the video game got to experience the show.
That's so
I will
sweet.
say
Noah.
that.
That's very
Right.
sweet of you.
Thank you.
Let's get into episode 9 though. We start out in episode 9 with Ellie's mother. She's running away from what we can presume to be the infected. She breaks into a abandoned home, locks herself up in a room, and starts to give birth to who we presume to be as Ellie. And
Shout out to the actual Ashley Johnson. I was going to call her Ellie Johnson.
you got it. Yeah, keep going.
Shout out to the real Ellie, Ashley Johnson being Ellie's mom.
That's right. Yes. And so you mean she's like the voice?
She's
and
the voice for
actor,
Ellie.
right? Also the actor.
Yeah. Motion
Yeah,
capture
Yeah,
actor.
she's the
Mocap,
voice and
yeah.
mocap.
Yeah. So in the sequence, she gives birth to Ellie. She kills the infected, but manages to. She ends up getting bitten, and Marlene ultimately shows up at this abandoned house as well. Takes Ellie and shoots her mother at her request. And then we jump forward to Ellie and Jill walking through Salt Lake City. And for the first few minutes, as Jill and Ellie are making their way across towards the hospital, we see Ellie kind of in a dissociative state. She's out of it. She's clearly suffering from the lingering after effects of trauma. And
Joel wants to play Boggle.
Jill
Right.
wants to play
After
Boggle.
she
Trying to
just
do
committed,
everything.
after she almost got and murdered and eaten, and then
just
she had to
wants-
force to kill someone. He's like, "You want to play Boggle?"
They eventually make their way through a building and they encounter what is an iconic scene in the video game, the giraffes. This is where the two characters are able to kind of emotionally recenter themselves after the traumatic effects of Silver Lake Resort. They feed the giraffes. They see these animals walking across a desolate plain, and it kind of feeds back to the war cry of this season 1 review, the beauty and bleakness of these beautiful animals kind of sauntering through the desolate cityscape. Yes, Yanni.
I have to give credit where credit's actually due. And Steven Spielberg, in Jurassic Park, basically did this scene with the
Yeah,
Brontosaurus.
he
I just want to. You have to flash back to where this OG sentimental moment really has its origins, which is Jurassic Park, the greatest movie franchise of all time. Okay, I'm done.
No, I agree. It's very reminiscent of the Brontosaurus
Yeah.
scenes. And I think it's one of those scenes in cinema that will be troped again and again
Yeah.
and again until the end of time. And for good reason, right? But we're giraffes. And
Giraffes.
Giraffes. Shortly thereafter, flashbang and rifle to the back of the face.
No. Joel finally tells the story of his suicide attempt.
That's right. Nick, can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, so something that wasn't in the game, we were never given a backstory on Joel trying to commit suicide after he lost his daughter when he first went into the QZ, but the TV show has given us a story where Joel has a scar on his face, And Ellie wants to know where it is in the very beginning of the show, and Joel, not wanting to share anything about himself, especially to Cargo, just says, somebody shot, I shot. Somebody shot me, they missed, so I shot back, I also missed. And now he finally admits that the person that shot at him and missed was himself, because he was so distraught. He lost his daughter, he had nothing to live for, and he was ready to die. It wasn't even just a split second. He had planned it, and he was ready to go because he knew he had nothing else to live for. And for reasons beyond his own understanding, he flinched when he pulled the trigger and he missed. And then it is heavily implied that when he says, as they're talking, he says, like, I have things worth living for now, as he looks at Ellie. He never intentionally tells Ellie that she's his reason for living now, but
Right.
it is heavily implied that Ellie is now his new reason to keep going, to keep fighting.
Really important conversation. So appreciate you kind of breaking that down for us. Thanks, Nick. And so we then go to the flashbang and rifle to the back of the head. And
Yeah, and
Joel and
I want to interrupt you right there because boom, right away, another trope. You cannot just whack people in the head and expect them to just
Give him a
chill.
concussion.
You're gonna kill people.
Wake
like
up
that.
a few hours later.
Please, creators, showrunners, stop using the butt of the rifle to knock people out. Just use them chloroform. Use a flashbang
To the jaw.
Like they already did a flashbang.
Punch to
Why-
the jaw knocks people out.
I mean, just a
Yeah, right
flashbang
in
was
the chin.
enough, though, guys. You could have just knocked
Right.
out from the flashbang.
It was.
I
It
want to
was-
say
Why didn't you hit him in the
Chloroform takes-
head?
chloroform does not take the 5 seconds that TV makes it seem. Chloroform
You know
takes
this,
like
Nick.
a
Yeah, what is
Because-
going on?
It's like, I know from personal experience.
When
All right, guys.
when I did
At best,
theater
30
when-
seconds.
when I did theater in
I
high
timed
school,
it.
and like they
Hold
were
on.
just like, yeah, here's a do a chloroform thing, and I was like, yeah, that takes 5 seconds, and my teacher was like, actually, in the army,
All right,
we
what's
had
your
to-
Now I'm
name
concerned
again?
about your
Hold on.
teacher.
Yeah, Nick, were you
Jesus.
alone with this teacher at any point?
Yes, I
remember?
did chloroform. And
I
I
remember
don't want
every
to talk
class that
about
you
it.
went to.
All right. So,
Oh, Lord.
so
Nick,
pushing
you need
on
to unpack
forward.
that with your therapist.
Westward Ho's. Marlene greets Joel in a hospital room. He demands to see Ellie. Ellie's being prepped for surgery. This is being revealed. Marlene thanks Joel for his services in terms of bringing Ellie all the way out to Salt Lake City, but she candidly reveals to him that she is not going to survive the surgical procedure, which involves removing cordyceps or the mutated cordyceps from her brain, which will then allow the doctors to provide a cure for the rest of humanity. Joel, unwilling to accept this as a solution, wants to see Ellie one last time. However, he's escorted off the premises at gunpoint by Marlene's men. This is where he quickly subdues both men, ends up going on a killing spree, maybe offs at least like a dozen fireflies. In the process of entering the surgery room, offing the doctor, and taking Ellie with him away. At this point, Marlene is the last man or woman standing between Joel and an unconscious Ellie and a car or getaway car. And this is where they have a really important conversation about choice, about giving people the autonomy to make decisions for themselves. The irony of this conversation is that Marlene believes that she's giving Ellie a choice to cure humanity, but she's not. She's anesthetized her, she's prepping her for surgery, and is going to kill her. On the other hand, Joel is also not giving Ellie a choice by kidnapping her, and without her input, quote unquote, saving her from this procedure and taking her away to safety so that she can live with him as his surrogate daughter. So there's quite a bit of irony there. So we go from Marlene and Joel, where Joel murders her in cold blood with multiple gunshots, to Ellie coming to her senses in the car. This is where she asks Joel what had happened back in the hospital, and Joel tells her two key lies. One, the hospital was overrun by raiders. There were a lot of fireflies killed, and he had to get her there quickly. The second lie, the second lie. All right, more like 4 lies, guys. The fourth lie that Joel tells is that there were lots of individuals who were immune like her, and the doctors were working on a cure, but were unable to find one. And as a result, they are giving up on the project entirely. So for that reason, they are in the car running away from the facilities. Later on, as they're making their way on foot through a hike up in the mountains, Ellie confronts him about both lies and asks Joel to swear to her that everything that he's told her up to this point is true. Joel looks her squarely in the face and says, yes. After a long pause, a hesitant pause, maybe a skeptical pause even, Ellie looks back at him and says, okay. End episode, season 1, The Last of Us on HBO.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
And that's it. That's the end of season 1. So,
All right. See you guys later.
all right.
So
Good night, guys.
I'll ask the question to everybody, not just the non-gamers, but to the gamers, because this is a pretty, when the game first came out and when people beat it, this was a pretty heavily debated topic. Is Joel a good guy or is Joel a bad guy?
I think Joel is a broken man who has finally found his reason to live again. So I don't necessarily know if he's a good or a bad person. I think he's made a selfish choice, in my opinion. But as a father of 2 girls, I don't know if I would have made a different choice. I think if someone asked me to end my daughter's life,
Everyone, welcome to how David watches things. He makes things very
Yeah.
personal. Very
I
personal.
mean, how can you not?
No, I know.
mean,
it's unique. It's not unique.
Yeah.
It's emblematic of how you watch things. I think
Yeah.
I just want to point that out.
I'll jump in just to keep move it.
Yeah.
We kind of get the skew in the episode that he is not the Joel we normally know. There's this sense, I don't know why, but there is a sense that Joel's a little different in this episode. And I think maybe, I don't know if that's the creator's input or if that was my own takeaway, but I would say that I think that Joel, I don't think he's bad, but I definitely don't think he's good here. And I think though that the lying is what sealed the deal for me. So that I can't answer the good or bad, but I can say where I think he went wrong is with the lie. I think he could have done everything he did the same, and if he didn't lie, I would have thought he was good. But the lie changed it from being about her consent and understanding of truth and protecting her to it being selfish. So.
Johnny, could I hit you with the extra question of as a good parent, don't you tell your child somewhat, like, don't you lie to your child sometimes?
Yeah, and I think it's tough because she's in a weird age in the show and game, right? She's at this borderline adulthood. She's been through a lot. I think David said that before. Mm-hmm. I think though, in something that is this serious, it comes down to those details. It comes down to you can protect your child, but if it's about her consent to decide what she wants to do with her fate because she has a special gift, lying to her is blatantly wrong because that's her choice. So
and
he made it for her, right?
Like the shaky okay from Ellie at the end kind of mirrors the scene right after the giraffes where Ellie's like, we're going to do whatever it takes to like finish this. And Joel kind of gives like a shaky, like, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Interesting.
Like,
that's a good point, Dave.
It's funny how those scenes.
It's wobbly. It's wobbly.
Yeah, like
David.
he at that moment, he doesn't know if he can do it.
Right.
Like he doesn't know what's next, and he doesn't know if he can handle it.
But he's committed to the kill, right? And this is a metaphorical kill. He has to kill the truth. He's 100% a bad guy, in my opinion. I think and I think the show has established that. But what is unique about this series is that it makes no qualms about the fact that Joel is bad and he's done evil things and he will continue to do evil things throughout season 1, and that it's capped off with the most spectacular lie that you can come up with in this world, where you are preventing a cure from being developed that could potentially save millions and millions of lives. And I think if you kind of put it in those plain terms, that he's on paper a bad guy. Now, emotionally, the show does an incredible job of getting you tethered to his character, sympathizing with him, knowing how he feels and what he's lost. And you imagine yourself in his shoes. And some of us would say, yeah, I would do the same thing. Dave, you just said that a second ago. And that's the beauty. It makes you think about things that bad men and women would do, but that makes sense to you on some twisted.
Can I just add to that though, just to be clear, the Fireflies, there was no good person here. The Fireflies did
It's
not.
all experimental.
Yeah, well, it's just they didn't tell her. They planned on killing her without informing her that's how they were going to get their cure. So they equally were motivated by their own, the ends justify the means, that dark trap. And similarly, Joel made a decision in response to that. But I will say, to Joel's credit, there was no sense of if this was going to work. It was a guess by some doctor who is 20 years in. Like, who knows how his medical training and research could be. The messengers communicate. Like, you hear that, you're like, okay, this guy's making some crap up. I'm just going to go save her. Like, I got that. So it was interesting. I think they left it just like gray enough that it felt super interesting for a viewer, because you're like, where do I sit? I don't know.
I'm gonna say that it all depends on your perspective, right? I think
Are you running for senator?
Joel is yes, yes. You found out. It all like Joel is definitely a bad guy to those families. He just murdered their fathers. He's definitely a bad guy. But to Joel, those doctors and the Fireflies were bad guys for killing an innocent girl and not telling him for the possibility of there being a cure. There's no, like Johnny said, there's no 100% this is a cure. I think the question of if Joel's a good guy or a bad guy doesn't really matter, because it all depends on whose feet are in the shoes, right? And that's kind of echoes real world life. For some reason, we like to put people in these good guys' shoes and these bad guys' shoes, but it all matters on what side of that perspective you're on. And that's kind of Last of Us in a nutshell. There really is no good guys or bad guys. You always justify your reason, and you're always going to protect your loved ones, because your loved ones are the most precious to you, and everyone else comes second. And that's just the world we live in. So is Joel a good guy? Yes. Is he a bad guy? Yes. So that's how I.
Yeah, you don't know if the
You're here.
Fireflies are going to use it, right, to control the world. You don't know.
Right. You don't know.
There's no pop. There's one guy that's saying there's a cure and he's going to kill an innocent girl. You don't know how many innocent girls he's killed. So.
And how many examples throughout season 1 have we seen of individuals in power becoming corrupted, using it to further their own desires?
Can we just say the very first scene of the entire show is a doctor saying there is absolutely no way to make a vaccine to cure the fungus?
Right.
Remember? That was the very first scene of the show.
Right.
So I'll wrap up real quickly, and I'll say I think Joel is a bad guy. I think we live in a world where there are no good guys. Everyone's a bad guy. But I agree
on some level, on
Hot
varying
take.
levels.
I agree with Noah in the sense that it's perspective, just because I think it's very easy from the outside looking in to say Joel's a bad guy for dooming humanity. But being that person, when you're in those shoes, like David said, you would do anything to save the one, like all of you guys said, you would do anything to save the one you love. Like, you care about somebody, you would do something just as insane, if not more, because you care for them and you would go out of your way for it. So very easy on the outside looking in, not so easy when you're in that bubble having to make that choice yourself.
Yeah, agreed. So, all right, season 1 in the books, guys. Episode 9, Last of Us, season finale. We look forward to when the show returns with season 2.
Can we at least the gamers say what we would choose to do? Watch the show or play the video game?
God damn.
If we could go back.
Yes.
I'd play the game.
I played the game.
I play the game.
Yeah.
I'd watch the show.
Yeah. No,
we don't ask you that question.
You didn't have a choice. All right, cool. So no season 2 theories just yet. Gamers will.
They don't know.
Gamers will game. Non-gamers will not game.
No bitch.
And season 1 is done. So we want to thank our viewers for tuning in episode by episode.
We do this for you.
We appreciate you guys, all 100 of you.
Thank you. Please.
You know who you are.
I
You
know
know who
I'm
you are.
amazing. I know. Arguably
We're
the
a
best
lot
host.
during this.
Nick, we're
season.
complimenting our guests, not about you.
No, look, I accept all the love and accolades.
God. Hold his mic.
We're doing Scream 6 next. So we'll be reviewing Scream 6 in a week, and we'll get back to you on that one. And then after that, we are debating what lies ahead, but there's a couple options, and we'll definitely have more updates for you. Whether we decide to do another TV show that's coming up or more movies, we'll definitely be coming out with content regularly on a week-to-week basis moving forward. And we look forward to meeting more of you and continuing this train on forward. So thanks for listening to the Spooky Screen. Thank you for listening to our Last of Us Season 1 episode-by-episode reviews. If you haven't seen previous reviews, what are you doing? Go back to episode 1 and start from there. And like and subscribe, as Johnny would say. And we want to thank you. So good night.
Good night.
Peace out. See you guys.